Hey guys, it's mcfixit here. We have this return in our house that doesn't seem to be working well. We're on the upper level of our house on the far end. Our furnace is all the way over there. This is the last room. And this does not work properly. The forced air conditioning and heating unit will push air one side and it has to have a return on the other, or else the air just gets really stuffy. I just turned on my heat. It's the beginning of winter, and I just cranked it up. So it was set at 68. I have it set at 70 now. You can hear the air conditioner, maybe not on this video, but you can hear everything working. So one thing you can do is just grab a piece of paper, and I call it kind of the paper test to see if this return is working. You go ahead and stick it up and it should stay, and it's not. Again, everything is on and working. It's been on for a few minutes now, so this thing should be holding this paper and sucking it to the wall, but it's not. And so we're gonna work on a fix, kind of have to reverse engineer. The only thing I could really think of, and maybe you have a better idea than I do, but this is a Suncort. This is not the only one that's made like this. This is a register booster. Typically you put this in the register on the floor and it actually will boost because it has, I call them computer fans inside of it, and will actually draw air up and out. So what my plan is to reverse engineer this to flip these around. We'll have to make a new grate because the grate is totally different size. This is, I believe it is a 16 by, I think it's 10 or 9, I can't remember, but we'll get the exact measurements. And so it will have to have kind of a new plate. So I'm just gonna use a piece of wood, put a new plate on it. The one thing we will have to do, is said it was supposed to come with a 12-foot cord. It did not. We're gonna have to extend that. This is really small wire, so we will be able to do that pretty easily with some leftover stuff, because the goal is I'm gonna put it through the wall here and then come all the way down, and we'll come out the base here. And then I do have a power strip here that we normally use. This is where my my nightstand normally sits. And so this will go up through the wall. And there's a couple ways you could do that. You could cut a hole right like here. I'm gonna actually pull these baseboards. I don't know if you see the baseboards are a different color than this, because this is more of an experiment than anything, to try to get some better airflow in here, especially when it gets really stuffy. And so I'm probably just gonna pull this baseboard out, drill a little bit of a hole, and then shimmy this right up to the very top, having it come out of this and then plugging in. Again, this would be much longer and this would plug in. And that way the cord is not just sitting on the wall, which would look kind of tacky. And because it's near the light switch, it might get pulled if you're looking for the light switch at night. And so that's the best thing I can think of how to do. And so I'm gonna go through all the tools, all the supplies that you need, and the know-how on how to do this project. So here are the tools and the supplies that I used for this. This is a Suncort, and it is the register booster amplifier. And so this is a 12 volt, which is very low wattage, just pretty much computer fans. I'll have to reverse engineer. You're gonna need a couple of like inch-long screws, paint, because we're gonna take a piece of plywood right back here, and we're gonna go ahead and cut that plywood to kind of fit over where the other register part was. We're gonna paint it white, so you're gonna need some kind of saw for it in some degree, and so I just used a jigsaw. I used a palm sander to get it nice and smooth. Had to use a couple of clamps to clamp everything down. To run this wire through the wall, I am gonna have to use one of these little wall tools that allow you to push it up through the wall really easily. It kind of just extends and retracts very nicely. So that one works really well for this. Scissors, you will want some kind of square. We used a drill as well, and we used a 3/8, and we used a 5/32. The 5/32 drilled into these holes, and the 3/8 was allowing us to be able to use the jigsaw and also be able to kind of hide that cord. I did have to put an extension on this of about 6 more feet onto this cord. I thought it said it was 12 feet when I bought it, but it came with a 6-footer. I haven't been able to look back to see if it was supposed to come with the other. Anyways, I just modified it. So to be able to do that, you'll need this little section of tools over here: 18 gauge wire, heat shrink wrap, heat shrink gun, some kind of clamps, helpful hands. You'll want solder, which is a resin core. You'll want some flux, some electrical tape, some kind of strippers. These are one of my favorite ones. They don't really make these anymore. This is a Klein 74011 made in Germany. It was my dad's for a long time, I believe, and I really do like this tool. Kind of to any size, like, so if it's this size or if it's thin, it does all of them, so you're not constantly looking where that's at. You will want a solder gun. I did use a couple of screwdrivers. You do have to pop this out, so I used a flathead, then a Phillips to get it, the old register vent off the wall, and install the new one. And you'll use the same screws you had. Used a Sharpie so you could see it very well on the video as well. So I also used a really long pair of needle nose pliers. I used this pry bar, a hammer, and some form of a light just to give you some extra seeing if you are going to put it through the wall. You won't need these if you're not putting your cord through the wall. So the first step is to go ahead and take off these 2 Phillips screws. I am going to reuse these screws in the future, so just take them off. And these screws on this one are pretty long, so I'm going to get it started with the screwdriver, then just continuing to turn with my left hand and kind of keeping at least 1 or 2 fingers on the vent as well, just so it doesn't fall. And then you can kind of hold the whole vent. And so we'll go ahead and take this off. We're going to use this as our template because, as you can see, they did not paint right here. And one other thing I do want to show you, this register was not really probably set up how it should have been. That's just plywood, that's just drywall, and there's just plywood. We're going to be replacing our AC and heat unit soon, and so this is just a temporary fix that what I'm doing today. I do want to make sure I clarified that. This is not long term. I would love to get this whole thing revented, all of the vents done properly, but probably not going to be able to afford that, at least at this point. But this should be at least a temporary relief for that. And so we'll take this out into the garage and we'll begin to kind of make a wood version of this. It'll probably have to be a little thicker because I don't know if I have that thin of plywood, which is fine because that register is pretty deep, but we do want to make sure we paint it white and have it all ready. So I have this 1/2 inch piece of plywood here. This is just a scrap piece. And so we're going to use it to kind of reverse engineer this. So you can see it is quite a bit thicker, but that's not really going to matter because the depth of this register is not flat. And so that 1/2 inch will just kind of take up some space there, which is actually kind of a good thing. And so you can use a couple of different things. You can use a pencil or a Sharpie. I like to use a Sharpie on this channel as much as possible because you can see it a little bit better. And you might want to look for a squared side as well. This side is a bit more squared, so I'm going to use this one. So I'm just going to put a line and put a line. This does not have to be perfect. I will say the one thing you are going to want to do is make it at least as big as this, if not a touch bigger. So the other thing we're going to do is go ahead and try to center this up the best that we can. And so this will be the direction that it sits. And so you will want to get that centered up. I like to eyeball it sometimes more than measure it, but you can measure it if you want. So that's 16 inches. So you're going to have 8 inches here. So you could most definitely do something like this. So that gives you your 8 inches. And you just put the other on the back side. And this is 8 inches, so it needs to come to be 4 inches. This is not the straightest piece of wood, but that's fine. And then you can kind of go ahead and go here. I mean, this is, I think, a little overkill. And so with this, you can see it's not exactly 4 inches by 10 inches, which is I think a lot of what the registers are. I think that's so this thing fits in easily because you don't have a lot of wiggle room. But I'm just going to use that. That'll help kind of get me lined up pretty well. Going to go a little further on this mark. That way I can see kind of all sides. And like I said, I'm just going to kind of eyeball it. I like that right there. Now I'm going to go ahead and trace around. It's going to be hard to see this on the camera, but I'm just making a square around that. Oh, and it's okay if you draw on this. This is going to be painted, and we'll probably flip it over as well. I did have a little mess up there, but that's fine. So this is the area we want to make sure we cut out. And honestly, I'm going to probably do it on the outside edge when I cut this. So we'll cut out the inside first, and then we'll go ahead and cut up it off of the other. That way we can kind of tack this thing down with some clamps. So we have this clamp down, and pretty much all my cuts except right here are clear. So we're going to take a 3/8 wood drill bit, go ahead and go kind of in the corner. And this will be our pilot holes for our jigsaw. Go ahead and get a jigsaw wood blade on it. And remember, we're going on that outside line. I'm gonna move this clamp down just a little bit to give me a little more working. And so you can see I got most of the outside line on that. You still see it on there. So just a little couple pieces you got to trim up, which is good. So we'll go ahead and test this for fit. And that's exactly what we want. It's nice and fit right on there. It has just a little bit of wiggle room, which is okay, because what we're going to do eventually is cut these two holes out that they preset for you and just put a little screw in there, just so if you do need to take this off in the future, you don't have to unbolt it here. Next thing we're going to do is go ahead and cut these lines. We'll go ahead and start with this one. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and turn it so we can cut this one. And I am going to readjust my clamp so I got good support. And we'll just go ahead and cut this. Okay, that is exactly what we want. We're going to go ahead and this will be the side that we're going to paint. So we're going to go ahead and sand this side pretty well and the edges. So we have this oscillating palm sander, 220 grit sandpaper. So you probably saw me hit up the back side too. That's just so we don't get any kind of splinters. I think I might actually hit this up just a touch more. Okay, I like how that looks. The other thing is if you do have one edge that might be straighter than the other, I would encourage you to put that one down, because you're not going to see this edge because of your eyesight, but you would see this one a bit more. The jigsaws don't cut as straight as a circular saw, but it's plenty okay for this application right here. And so we're going to go ahead and paint this. So if you're like me, you get some pizza from the Hut and they give you these really nice big boxes that are great for spray painting. Make sure you've shaken up your can for the recommended amount of time. This is going to be a semi-gloss, and I do really like these little, I think they're just a couple bucks. Rust-Oleum makes it. It's a kind of like a spray paint sprayer. And this is a warmer day at my house. We still have to use heat, but it's not as cold. We're about to get a nice big wintry cold front. And so I want to make sure we have that already. It's about 55 degrees outside today. So you're going to go ahead and let that sit the proper amount of time. And so it says to let this sit for 1 hour. And so we'll go ahead and let that do that out here. And we'll begin working on the next stage of the project. So the next stage of this project is to begin to reverse engineer this. And I want to show you real quick kind of what it does. So I am going to plug it in. We will keep this unplugged when it's time. You can set this a lot of different directions. And so that is on, and you got different speed variations, which is great. But it is sucking air this direction and pulling it this way. So we need to take these fans and flip them over. So we're going to go ahead and unplug, just to make sure you know I unplugged. I'm going to do this one too, because we will have to take this faceplate off. Now these sometimes can be a little tricky. You got to kind of figure out, especially if you're not using this Suncourt, how these things come apart. Most of them come apart. And so I'm just going to guess. And I think you probably have to press these one way or the other. Ooh, that's it. You press these outward. That was actually really easy. And that came apart. So this shows you a little bit about the diagram. I believe this one was down. That's probably, yeah, that's probably your sensor to tell how hot or cold everything is right here. This little black piece. So we are gonna have to move that out of the way for a second, but we will wanna make sure we put that back. And so this is just your fan speed here, and your sensor here is a little button to get all of those, and here's a little button, and you can see the little LEDs on there. Pretty simple, but also pretty cool. So we're gonna go ahead and try to figure out how to get these out. There are no screws at all. Sometimes these computer fans, all you gotta have is a couple of screws. You unscrew them, you screw them back in, and you are done. So we're gonna go ahead and see if we can, well, that just lifts straight out of there. This thing is literally just like pushed into place, it looks like, which is helpful for our application today. Don't know about the longevity of this, but let's see if I can just kind of, I'm guessing there's some kind of tab on the other side that's kind of locking that one in place. There it is. So yeah, it's just 4 little tabs. So do know that this was black here, and on this side, Simbang, I guess, I don't know, brushless fan, 12 volt. And so let's try to see if we can do the same thing with this one. My guess is it's always harder on the next one. I think we got lucky on that first one. So if I stick this in here, we should be able to try not to break it, because it is all plastic. Oh, there we go. And it does look like if you would need to add a screw or two, it looks like you probably could. If you did end up breaking part of this beautiful plasticness. There it goes. You just kind of got to figure it out as you go. Okay. And so you may have to take it out of the wiring out of the little housing here. Let's just see if we can, oh, we can just flip it. You don't even have to. Perfect. Snapped right back into place too. This is gonna be a pretty easy fix. Now this cord was above this, so I'm gonna try my best to stick this in. I probably shouldn't have pushed that one down all the way yet. You know what, there's enough clearance. As long as it's on the side, it'll be fine. Perfect. One other thing you could do, I'm gonna go ahead and put this back real quick. One other thing you most likely could get away with, if you don't want these LEDs showing up, you probably could put a little piece of electrical tape. Once you kind of know your settings and where you want it, you could probably easily just pop this back off, and or even put it right here or right here. I don't really like a whole lot of light showing up in the bedroom. I like it very, very, very dark, so I might end up doing that. So let me show you that this actually works. Be very careful. You're around electric stuff. I think I gotta get back to, there's the fan. So this should blow this towards it, and so on this side it should be blowing it away, which it is. You can see right there. So if we had this cover on, it sucks the paper, just like what we were trying to do earlier. Fantastic. That little switch worked well. So now that that's totally dry, we're gonna go ahead and put our old one up against it and go ahead and drill some pilot holes. I'm not going all the way down, just getting a little bit of a ability to know exactly where those are. And then we'll go ahead and drill those in. Perfect. Go ahead and do the other one. And just like that, both of those are perfect, done. Those old screws will go right back in there. I'm gonna put one other hole in this. I'm gonna go back to that 3/8. And what I want to do is I wanna go ahead and kind of set this in place. And the goal of this is so the power cord comes behind here. And so once you kind of have a good idea of where that is, I am going to go ahead and put a little mark right there. And so that will allow us to run it through. Go ahead and grab back out my tool. I wish I'd have brought my Sharpie out here. Did want to just double check. Go ahead and drill right here. Oh, I was not holding on to that very well. So go ahead and do that and see if we can get this cord through. We may not be able to because of how thick, but if we are able to, that would be great. We're gonna have to, I thought we would. Gonna go ahead and hit it up right here as well. Go and stick that underneath on the bottom of that little table. Go ahead. Oh. Probably should have done this in a different spot, like in my garage, but it's okay. So we're just gonna feed this down and through. And that will allow us to have some flexibility on this. And you can see, you're not even gonna be able to see where that was. And when we do tighten this down, we're not gonna like kill it tight, but you can see that cord can go right down in and through there and still be just a little bit of a gap for that cord. So that's the exact plan that we want. And that's looking good right there. So we'll go ahead and screw this in. Then we still have to work on this power cord. So we'll go ahead and get that done. So I think I mentioned I was gonna screw this in. I'm actually not gonna do that till we actually get it up in the wall. I changed my mind on that. So you can go ahead and unplug this. I have a couple of screws that I'll eventually put that in. And this doesn't look the prettiest, I'll be honest, but it's okay. It's still going to work well. So we'll put this up here. So the next thing I would like to do is go ahead and cut this and make sure that we have a really good connection. I do want as much of the white kind of on the outside of the wall, like in the room, and then the rest on the inside. So I'm just gonna cut with a pair of scissors. If you have a pair of something else you would like to cut with, go for it. And we'll go ahead and split that. So I'm going to be using 18 gauge wire here. And so you're going to want about 6 feet worth. So I'm about 6 foot tall. Pulled that all the way out. That'll give us about 12 feet in case we ever need to move or adjust this. And just like that, I'm going to go ahead and kind of get this nice and flat. Go ahead and get your scissors. And just put a nice little slit right down there. We want about 1 inch worth cut off. So like that and like that. Go ahead and pull that off, just like so. Then we'll go ahead and get the white one. Kind of do the same thing. Might do just a little bit less than a full inch on this one. Your soldering iron is warming up, and you want to connect. I'm going to put the one that has the black line with the one that has the black line. So we'll go ahead and do that one first. And then I have this little heat shrink wrap. Gonna go ahead and put that over that one. This just helps keep us straight on which one we're doing. And then we'll work on folding this up and around just like this. And then we'll go ahead and put a little bit of flux on it. Then this is where these helping hands really do help. There's lots of ways you can do it. If you have this cable on my left, the new stuff's pretty thick, so I'm just going to use probably just one of the hands. And we'll go ahead and begin to put this on. And as you notice, I am just putting the iron on the copper down here and heating it up that way and pressing in the solder from the top. That's the way I prefer to solder stuff. I think it gives you a little bit better solder. So we're done with that one. Go ahead and slide up the heat shrink wrap to where that is in the center. And you have to be careful if it is hot and catches on there. It sometimes does kind of move around a little. Go ahead and hit that with heat. And that will shrink down right to size very well. Just like that. That's right what we want. And then we'll go ahead and do the other one. Same thing, we'll just put a little bit of that flux. This flux works really well, just making sure it melts everything off and does exactly what it needs. Same thing, we'll just go ahead and start hitting this one up. Oh, guess what I didn't do? I'm gonna have to pull that apart. Forgot, I always do this. Forgot to put this on first. It's very, very, very easy to do. So I'm going to put the soldering iron down so I don't burn myself. Go ahead and put this back on. Go ahead and heat that back up. Add some more solder to it. Just like so. Perfect. And then we'll go ahead and pinch this, get it right where we want it. Go ahead and heat that up. There's one thing I like to do is electric tape. I just have to set it back up before it. That's like take out my garage so it's kind of cold. Release that on there. So I'm going to tell it piece. There's that one, all the way. It's around the holiday time, so FedEx is right outside my door, dropping off a bunch of stuff for all my neighbors. Now this isn't mandatory that you do this. I just want to kind of double ensure everything's doing what it's supposed to. And then I'm just going to do it together. Another about 6-inch piece. Just like that. It's a little bulkier than what I like, but you know what? It is what it is. Going to go do the same thing to the other side. Cut this one down the center first. And open it up. Cut that just like that. And then we'll grab the other one and do the same thing to it. You could use a lot of different other cutting tools than this, but just what I had out and available were a pair of scissors right here, so that's what I used. Lots of tools do lots of different things. Scissors are very helpful. Perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of lock this in place. Let's go ahead and do the black one again. We'll do it in the same order. Maybe this time I'll remember to put the heat shrink wrap around it. So let's go ahead and throw that heat shrink wrap right over it. Then we will go ahead and find the one that has the line on it and begin to work them together. It's just a little bit of flux on there. Nope, that was not good. That line was real close to that. And then just go ahead and twist them. I'm hoping Santa brings me a new work table soon, but it probably won't be till after Christmas. Perfect. Go ahead and put that up and over. We will heat shrink wrap that up, just like so. Do the same thing to the other side. I am going to flip this so it's a little easier. Do whatever is most comfortable for you and easiest. It's at least what I always think. You're the one doing this project. And I did it again. I don't know why I'm so bad at always remembering that heat shrink wrap. One day I'll remember. Probably quit doing stuff by then. Everything will be fixed in my house. Probably not. Everything breaks today. It's all so cheap. So I'm going to go ahead and close that because I'm done with it. Just an idea what that flux was. I highly recommend getting a little bottle of that. It does help and it lasts forever. I've had that for a few years and tons of projects with it. So that's gone ahead and done. I'm going to go ahead and unplug that and kind of set it off to the side. Go ahead and slide that up and on, just like so. Then I'm going to do the same thing with the tape. I'm going to do 3 pieces about 6 inches each and just make sure that is extra wrapped. Okay, that's done. Go ahead and set that stuff off to the side. Then we're going to have to go ahead and run this up through the wall. So I'll show you how you do that. And then we'll mount all of that together up into the wall, which is going to be fantastic. You're going to get to see all that done, and then we're going to go ahead and test it. So you can tell this is the new extended wire. We're going to go ahead and test to make sure it works. Go ahead and plug it in. It does take 1 or 2 seconds to begin. Fantastic. That's going to work great. So we'll go ahead and unplug that, just like so, and unplug this from the wall. So you have a couple of options. You can literally stick this down through the wall, but it's going to be hard because you have this big, huge brick. So and you could just put it against the wall right here if you really wanted to. I think that looks really tacky, and I want it to be a little bit more unseen. So we're going to come all the way down here, and we're going to go straight right here. And I don't know if I put this in the tools. You may want some kind of pry bar. And we're just going to tap it and pop it. And then pull it a little bit. I'm going to bend back all of these nails. I did say we are going to paint this soon. I have another video out there that shows you somehow to do that. And so I'm going to try to find out where that is. We're going to have to go a little further. If the bed wasn't here, it'd be a little bit easier to show you this. But it's fine. We'll just take it here. We're going to need to go straight down here because there is a stud right here. So we're going to want to go to the other side of where that stud would be. And I just cut a nice little hole. And I think we might have to drill a little bigger hole. That should be plenty big enough. So we're going to go ahead and try to fish it from the top down into that hole that I made. And try to remember that hole should be about right here. So that's pretty close to where it has stopped. So I'm going to see if I can come back down here and use a pair of needle nose and find it. So sometimes it's helpful to have somebody kind of move it around up top and to have your pliers kind of ready. A light also can be helpful. Try to get it to come a little more to the left. And you may have to pick it up a little and push it back down. Stop right there. Don't move. Okay, you feel me pulling a little? Let me. Perfect. So it was fished down. We went ahead and took these pliers, and when I saw this right in front of the hole, I did use a light too to kind of help me out. We were able to go ahead and pull that through the wall. I'm gonna use about a 6-inch piece of tape right now. You're gonna put this side that needs to be connected like this, and we'll go ahead and wrap this nice and tight. In fact, I want to get another little piece of tape. Part of that got turned around sideways. Electrical tape's pretty cheap, about another 6-inch piece. I do want to cover this port from getting stuff in it, so I like that right there. Then you can slowly place this back in and have that person pull it straight up and out. And then slowly just feed all this properly. And they'll just keep fishing that. They should be getting kind of close to the end. Is it out? Yep. And so they're out up there. I'm gonna have them pull it just a couple more inches. That's good right there. I'm gonna go ahead and release this back. I'm gonna push it just a little bit close to the wall right now and just let it sit like that so this cannot go back up and in. So you can see this is right here. You can go ahead and untape it. And sometimes this gets pretty tangled. And the lighting is not the best in this room. The one thing I'm gonna do first though, before I do anything else, just to ensure I don't lose this back down the hole, so I'm gonna put a little piece of tape here. That's a little bit of security for me. Because normally fishing is my least favorite part of doing a project like this. And you just take that tape off just like that. And so the next goal is to go ahead and get this where it needs to go. So I'm gonna remove the tape here and I'm gonna put it right through here. Then I'm gonna put that piece of tape right back there, just where I want that. Can you hand me that screwdriver right there, please? Then you're gonna take your Phillips screwdriver, and the goal is this is gonna go right in the same previous holes that the other one had. So I am gonna try to line that up well. Same thing with this one. Should fit nice and perfect and on there. And then I'll go ahead and tighten that down just like that. And so that is going right into the stud. So this will be able to hold the weight of this little fan thing. This little fan thing is not very heavy to begin with. So we're gonna go ahead and unplug or untape that. Go ahead and plug that in just like before. There's no power on, so you're not gonna hear the fan. Then you can go ahead and set this in just like that and kind of push that in just like so. Now we still need to go ahead and put in the screws up here. So I'll have to do that. So you can just go ahead and use a drill and get that on there. And then get the other screw. So you can go ahead and grab your second screw. And this one we're not gonna put in near as tight as the other side. We do want it tight enough to not wobble, but because that is under it right there, we're just going to do that. And that thing is not gonna go anywhere. And if you wanna hand tighten it down just a touch more after, you can, but I would encourage you not really cranking this side down. Now there is that, it's very hard to see, there is still that little bit of gap right there, which is exactly what we want. So let's go ahead and plug this in and see if it works. So you can already begin to hear it working. We'll go ahead and see if it holds the piece of paper, and it does just like that. Pretty awesome. You can dictate the fan speed right here. So if you want it to really suck some air out, that really will work well. And so that will suck that air back into that register. Even if the air is not on or the heat is not on, that will allow that to suck that. They're pretty low noise. We have ceiling fans in all of our bedrooms, so that's not super loud, but that should help get that exhaust air out and back to the register. Again, if you want to put a timer on this, you can put a timer on your outlet below. If this was helpful, please like and subscribe. Please comment if you do have any questions. Thank you guys so much for watching.